Howdy, y'all. I'm Justin.
And I'm Kim.
Welcome to Cowboys Like Us, the podcast where we talk about Taylor Swift and her music. Yeehaw. Hello, and welcome back to Cowboys Like Us, the only podcast rolling up to your local Sonic in a big-ass yee-yee truck blasting Lil Wayne's The Carter 3 in the year of our Lord 2023.
Yeah, definitely the only one.
It was a vibe back in the day. If you know, you know. Today, we're going to talk about 15 from Taylor's second album, Fearless. And, of course, the subsequent Taylor's version as well. Madeline is currently at work, rebuilding our social media empire. They feel that they know so much more than they did last time. So it should be much easier for them to get us back rolling, and I certainly hope so. We will see.
Yep, we're on all platforms as CBLU_podcast.
Yes, and our outro for this episode may have that correct, or it may not. It remains to be seen.
But this is us telling you. That's where you can find us.
Yes.
We will get back on track at some point.
We are in process. Speaking of programming notes, I am going to be on vacation this week, so we're recording this a few days early.
Yep.
So if there's been some huge Taylor news that we don't mention this week, we will get to it next week.
We're not just dumbasses.
Yeah. That's you know, how it happens.
How the cookie come. The what? The cookie crumbles is what I was trying to say.
Indeed. Let's move on to news.
News.
News from around the Taylorverse. And we have a twist today. Kimberly is going to be the newswoman, the anchor lady.
I'm going to be the news little guy. Okay. Have you heard the song Vampire by Olivia Rodrigo?
Heard of it. And also heard it, yes.
Now, some people have speculated that it might have been about Taylor Swift for reasons that apparently didn't make sense to Justin.
They sure didn't.
In a recent interview, Olivia scoffed at the idea and said, "I was very surprised when people thought that. Though she did make it clear she has and will never tell the world who any of her songs are about, much like Taylor."
Yeah, it seems very clear to me from the first listen. I was like, oh, this is some dude who's only, trying to get with her because she's famous. That's what fame fucker means.
Mm-hmm.
And Taylor doesn't need to fame fuck anybody because she's the most famous. She has fame fuckers after her. Vampires. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I could see how people would think that this is about kind of their lack of friendship since Taylor demanded writing credits on that song, which we've talked about before. But I don't necessarily think for sure that's what the song's about.
Taylor's gonna get hers, and that's how it should be. That's the way it is, But not everything is about Taylor. Y'all need to calm down.
Yeah, that is 100% true. That is for sure. That's 100% true. My brain tried to say both. All right. Cruel Summer.
Heard of it?
It hit 1 billion streams. It's in the billion streams club on Spotify. It is the 468th track to crack 1 billion, and the 5th Taylor Swift song. Others: Antihero, Blank Space, Shake It Off, and I Don't Want to Live Forever from the 50 Shades soundtrack with Zayn.
Yep.
On Spotify, Taylor had 100 million unique listeners on the platform for August.
Yes, indeed. Only the second artist to do so.
Yeah, that's a lot. Behind The Weeknd.
Yep.
Weeknd gave her a shout out on social media to welcome her into the 100 million club, I guess.
I guess so, yeah.
And she's the first female artist to do so.
Yep. And the second overall. Only after The Weeknd, so Very tiny club thus far.
Yeah, just
They should get jackets.
wanted to make it known she is the first lady.
Queen of
In
pop.
case you don't know who The Weeknd is and you think The Weeknd might be a lady.
Indeed. He's a gentleman from Canada. A Canadian gentleman.
The Weeknd tells you nothing. All right. DC is releasing a new Superman comic called Superman The Harvests of Youth, about Superman's life growing up in Smallville. It is set to come out in October.
Now, you mentioned this Superman figure. Who is he? What does he do? Is he like
A whole lot of nothing.
a particularly large man? Is that why he's super? Because he's supersized? Supersized man?
He's super because he can fly. And he's super because he has a weakness.
Yeah, he's super because he's a superhero. Superpowers. He's the
I
original
mean,
in a lot of ways. You know?
what's another power other than flying?
I was just being a dick.
He's unimpressive, honestly, in the grand scheme of things. But, yes, he is a DC superhero. Part of the Justice League, right?
He is.
Yeah. I am only slightly versed in the DC realm of things. The author of the comic, Senna Grace.
I think so.
Okay. Said of the book, quote, "There was a little bit of an autumnal vibe in the book that I wanted to capture." God, I can't speak. I was listening to a lot of Taylor Swift's folklore, so that sort of somber aesthetic played into every aspect of the book's design.
Yes, and I'm sure the comic book fanboys had a very measured, mature response to that quote from her about,
Absolutely.
Taylor Swift inspiring one of their underpants wearing Supermans.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
I'm sure they were stoked that she brought Taylor Swift into the conversation.
because they're very cool about that usually, that type of thing.
Yeah.
Women,
In general, yeah.
they like them. Yeah.
Yeah, they're super big fans of women in general. Movie studios continue to show a remarkable lack of dog.
That's right. Scared.
In addition to the new Exorcist, 2 more movies have changed their release dates to avoid coming out the same day as the Eras Tour movie. The 2 movies that have changed are Ordinary Angels and What Happens Later. What Happens Later is Meg Ryan's return to romantic comedy, the genre which she once ruled.
Indeed, back in the 90s, she was in all of them.
Yep. I was trying to think of who to compare her to today, but I'm not sure. Ordinary Angels is a drama starring Hilary Swank, and no matter the genre, movies just ain't got enough dog in them to go up against Taylor.
That's right, they running scared. This is the point where we would normally throw to chart watch, but as previously mentioned, we're recording this early, and the
Right.
charts have not come out yet for this week. So, let's just,
Probably safe to assume that not a lot has changed.
I was going to say, let's just speculate wildly that all the songs from last week will still be in there, and all the albums will still be in there, and Taylor will probably still be number 1 on the Artist 100. I feel confident in that.
I think Debut was the only one close to the bottom that might
It could creep
drop
out,
off at
yeah.
some point.
And I Can See You is kind of hovering
Yeah.
on the back end, so we'll see. We'll see.
So here comes our second twist. But before that, I'm going to drop a little bit of quick clownery in.
Kimberly's Clown Corner.
Presley Cash,
Heard of her?
star of I Can See You and the Meme music video, posted 2 very cryptic TikToks. The first is a screen of a phone with a black and white picture of her and Taylor on the lock screen as a call comes in from Taylor. And the caption says, "Would you answer the call?" with Getaway Car playing on top. And what we, I guess, can assume is Taylor's version. I didn't verify that.
We have
but-
to think so, though.
And then the second TikTok is Presley picking up an old rotary phone in black and white slow-mo while the "Nobody Trusts Me, I'll Be the Actress Starring in Your Bad Dreams" portion of Look What You Made Me Do plays on top of that with the same line as the caption, and it's followed by the emojis rotary phone, cloud, star, film camera, snake, black heart. So what the fuck is happening? What the fuck is happening?
Well, it seems apparent to me that she's teasing the soon-to-be announcement of Reputation TV, as we have thought will be next for some time.
Yeah.
I don't think it's anything other than that. I don't think it's more.
No, but does that mean that we're getting the announcement, like, soon?
Perhaps.
Or is it just advanced teasing?
I think my guess would be it's advanced teasing, but I don't know. We'll see.
Selena Gomez did the same thing right before the 1989 announcement, leading up to the show she attended, or shows that she attended in LA. She dropped a bunch of cryptic, like, Instagram posts and stories posts and things. So I'm scared. I'm scared.
We will see what happens. Stay tuned. Is that it for that?
Yeah, that was just my quick clownery. Just wanted to talk about it.
All right. Well, now we move on to the main portion of our clownery for today. And what a twist. I, Justin, am the new ringmaster today. And what I'm going to talk to you about is clown theories from the past that ended up being total and utter nonsense, but that people were wildly convinced of at the time. And I want to just make a very quick disclaimer before I do. Clowning is a very natural part of fandom, particularly when you're, a super fan. And it's largely instigated by Taylor herself. We talked about that. The reason people look for Easter eggs everywhere is because Taylor has a history of hiding Easter eggs everywhere.
And she said they're there.
So, this is not meant to be mean-spirited or a personal attack on any of y'all clowns out there. It is simply a reminder that not all the wild theories people come up with end up being true. Some of them are just clownery.
Sometimes we just got that clown makeup pasted on real thick.
Yup.
But sometimes they're true. So.
Let's get into it then. I got 3 categories for you. First off, the secret albums. We've all heard about Karma, the secret album that was initially going to be released instead of Reputation or before Reputation. It varies. But the drama happened, and Taylor leaned into it for Reputation, which was, inspired by that. Some truthers still hold out hope that Karma's out there and going to come out. But a large portion of the Karma truthers have pivoted and decided that debut TV will be called Karma when it comes out. They may be right. We will see. But I don't want to talk about Karma in either form. I want to talk about the other secret albums, like Woodvale.
The third sister.
People were convinced there was a third Folklore era album that was going to come out called Woodvale. And this is largely because Folklore was initially called Woodvale, possibly as a placeholder name or a code name, and a cover was leaked with Woodvale on it.
Yeah, I think it was a code word.
Swifties freaked out, convinced themselves it was the third sister, and it would be dropping on various dates based on, numbers like they always do. None of which were accurate because Woodvale didn't exist.
I think it would be so funny if after she does debut and she owns all of her music again, she goes back and or not goes back, but she releases albums with all of these titles.
Just to mess with people.
Just to clown on people. Yeah, just to be like, you weren't wrong.
Indeed. Or Timeless. Not the song from Speak Now TV. Timeless, the missing album. This was inspired by the random appearance of a website called Timeless shortly prior to the start of the Reputation era, and the only text on the site said, Timeless, coming soon. Swifties assumed this website was about Taylor, for some reason, and that Timeless was the title of her new album. But it wasn't. It's just some random site nobody ever updated. It's still coming soon as of today. So, yeah, it's not a Taylor thing. It's just some random person. That's what we were talking about earlier. Not everything is about Taylor, you guys. Some things are just out there. Y'all did this with the book, too, that was supposed to be. I didn't talk about it in this, but yeah, the BTS book, they were convinced it was Taylor. It wasn't. Or Eclipse, another missing album. Got Borchetta posted a stock photo of a clock once that was on 250 with some generic-ass motivational quote about not wasting time. Pretty benign social media stuff. Since there was going to be an eclipse coming up that same week, and it was projected to be around 250 at its peak, its most eclipsiest, Swifties decided it was a new surprise album drop at 250 during the eclipse. And it wasn't. Also, supporting this theory was the fact that Taylor once wore a shirt with a black circle on it, which kind of looks like an eclipse. So, yeah. Compelling stuff.
These are the theories. Like we talked about last week, the 112-day theory. And the more information that comes out on that, the more, like, in it I become. But then there are theories like this, and I'm like, that you know you're stretching. You can see that you're stretching.
Indeed. Another big stretch came from the infamous 5 holes in the fence photograph. This was a promo photo for Lover that was shot through a fence. It's a real artsy looking Instagram photo. And there were 5 visible holes in the lattice of the fence. Swifties went wild, trying to decide what the holes represented. There were lots of different things that they floated out, but Taylor later revealed that the holes didn't mean anything. She just thought it was a cool photo. She didn't even realize there were 5 holes in the fence or anything like that. So, yeah. Not everything means something. Also, Evermore, the Buckingham Sessions. Swifties thought, understandably, I think, that there would be an Evermore equivalent of the Long Pond Sessions. And rumors began on Discord that Taylor had recently hung out with Prince William and Kate Middleton. And thus, out of that tiny little bit of nothing, was born a beautiful dream. Evermore, the Buckingham Sessions. Taylor's Evermore Long Pond Session performed and filmed at Buckingham Palace. Spoiler alert, it was not real. The guy who claimed to know about it had also previously claimed that an Exile music video was coming on a certain date, and there never was an Exile music video on any date, so we should have known better, guys. We should have known better. So, those are 3 clowneries that didn't quite clown out. Was this segment fun for you, the listeners? Let us know on our social medias. If you like it, maybe we'll do some more of it in the future. But for now, we move on to the Song of the Week.
Yeah.
15 was originally released on Fearless in 2008. It was the 4th single of 5 from the album. It was written by Taylor Swift, and the original version was produced by Taylor and Nathan Chapman. Taylor's version by Taylor and Christopher Rowe. The original version, as a single, peaked at 23 on the Hot 100. The Taylor's version made it to 88. And the single was certified double platinum in the United States. 2 million copies sold.
Wow.
Indeed. What's Taylor said about this song?
She said to CMT News, I wrote this around the storyline of my best friend from high school, Abigail. I started everything with a line, Abigail gave everything she had to a boy who changed his mind, and wrote everything else from that point, almost backwards. I just decided I really wanted to tell that story about our first year of high school because I felt in my freshman year I grew up more than any year of my life so far. I said that was CMT. That was not CMT. It was BMR. My bad. She said to CMT News, the thing about high school, you don't know anything. You don't know anything, but you think you know everything.
True words.
Taylor was nervous about playing the song for Abigail, but Abigail said, Taylor said, does it bother you that your name is in a song that's so personal? And it really doesn't, just because of the way Taylor and I feel about it. If one girl can kind of learn from it and connect to a song like that, then it's totally worth it. Recording the song caused Taylor to cry, says it still gets her when she performs it.
Yep, she cries every time she plays it. So,
yep, she did so when she played it in the acoustic set on tour, too.
She's like, damn, Taylor, you really killed it with this one, dog.
Way to go, Taylor.
Move
Gives
to tears.
herself a little pat on the back.
Critical reception for the song was generally positive, although there were some haters out there that we'll get to. It got Taylor a lot of praise for her songwriting at such a young age. Rolling Stone said Swift is a songwriting savant with an intuitive gift for verse, chorus, bridge architecture. Her music mixes an almost impersonal professionalism. It is so rigorously crafted, it sounds like it's been scientifically engineered in a hit factory, with confessions that are squirmingly intimate and true. All Music said 15 is one of the best and most personal songs on Fearless, more Big Sister than Big Star. New York Times called it one of Swift's best written songs. Boston Globe called it one of Fearless's most interesting songs. The Village Voice called it a standout on Fearless. Paste Magazine said it's so admittedly innocent and simple, and I love it.
The whole magazine said, I love it.
The Guardian said you applaud her skill while feeling slightly unsettled by the thought of a teenager pontificating away like Yoda, which is a fun...
Okay.
It's fun to imagine Taylor doing a Yoda impression. I'm not going to do it. But it's fun to think about. Just think about it in your head.
Just imagine.
It'll be better if you imagine it than if I do.
I imagine her very small and very green.
Yep. Taylor for Yoda in the next Star Wars. You heard it here first.
Yes.
San Francisco Chronicle said, damn it if this song isn't too sweet, too vulnerable, and just too real to ignore.
Agreed.
Slant Mag liked the lyrics in the Bridge of 15, but hated pretty much everything else. They said, quote, Swift's greatest liability by far is that she's a terrible singer. The la 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 outro to 15 is just wretched.
Okay. The outro is not great, but the rest of the song is amazing.
I just want to say that review is of the original version, when Taylor was a less refined singer, to be sure.
But she could still sing.
Not according to Slant Mag.
Well, they're wrong.
And there was some controversy on the left for this song. Taylor Swift is a feminist nightmare. Songs like 15 dig up the ancient Puritan ideal that girls can only access power by confidently and heterosexually denying access to their pants. I thought maybe that said parts, but it says pants.
To there, and let me get this right. Let me reiterate this. Pants.
That was from a feminist blog from back in the day called Autostraddle. We'll talk about that when we get to the lyrics. But suffice to say, and I go out on a limb as a man, I disagree with that criticism. I don't think it's particularly well founded.
I think that this song is like the feminine experience.
Yeah. We'll talk about it.
So, they are incorrect.
Indeed. But first, what about the fans? Do the fans like it?
Our boy Rob Sheffield rated it number 15 out of all Taylor Swift songs.
Did he do that on purpose?
I don't know.
15? Curve 15? Either way, it's, in my opinion, a little too high. A little high.
Maybe a little high. But
it's
he
a good
said,
song, but it's high.
Still south of her 20s, she sings her compassionate, sisterly, yet hard-ass advice to her fellow teenage girls. Spoiler, boys are always lying about everything.
Facts.
Yeah. Childhood pal Abigail Anderson will always be her closest BFF of all time. Taylor was a bridesmaid in her wedding just a few years ago.
There you go.
They are already divorced, but we won't talk about that.
Oh, no.
r/Taylor Swift in their Fearless Taylor's Version Survivor game ranked 15, 9th out of 26 songs. There's a lot of numbers going on there.
There are, yeah. 9th
15,
best
9,
song
6.
on Fearless Taylor's Version according to r/Taylor Swift. Which, maybe a little low. Maybe a little low.
Oh, 15's too high for you, but 9's a little low.
To be clear, the 15 is for
out of
all
200
of Taylor's
and whatever,
discography.
Yeah. I know, I'm just picking on you.
I just don't want the fans out there to think that I'm some dumbass.
Well,
Let's go to the lyrics, shall we? First off, I just want to say, as someone who was never a 15-year-old girl, but I was, in fact, at some point, a 15-year-old boy.
so they say.
So, allegedly.
Allegedly.
This song, you know, it had a big effect on me the first time I heard it. And I say that because this is going to make me look bad.
Oh, no.
But I'm going to do it. Because
Oh, no.
honesty is important. And
I'm
it
scared.
is a sign of growth that we can look back at our past selves and say, hey, that guy wasn't great. So, when I was a wee lad, I always understood objectively and on an intellectual level, you know, women, much like me, have feelings. And they have things going on that I don't see. They have their own lives and their own emotions and their own things. I understood that on some level. But on another level, I kind of didn't. Because, like, when you're young and you're trying to date girls and you got crushes on girls and you're nervous and you tend to think, or at least I did for myself, like they don't feel nervous like that. And even still today, I kind of have those things I struggle with because you told me on our first date, oh, I was so nervous, that I couldn't eat.
I couldn't eat, yeah.
Yeah, and that just blew my mind because I was like, nervous about, going on a date with me?
Hanging out with me?
With me? Yeah, like what is that, It doesn't make sense to me, but it happens. Girls have feelings. Who knew?
I think that's a common thought, though. Because, I was the same way. If you had been like, oh, I'm so nervous to go on this date with you, I would have been like, I'm not scary. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I think so. I think we kind of talked about it on the Mirrorball episode. People think that everybody but them knows the rules and knows what's up, and they're the only ones who are faking it and don't know.
Yeah, we're all just floundering.
Yep, and it would be so much nicer for young folks if they could just be like, hey, I like you, but I have no idea what I'm doing, and I'm very very nervous. And she could be like, yeah, me too. Fuck, I don't know.
Yeah.
And then y'all could figure it out together and have fun. But you gotta be a man and pretend like I'm the man who knows things. Because I'm a man.
Yeah, it's... The unfortunate part is when, you're bold enough or you find the courage to say, I don't know what's going on. And then the people who definitely feel the same way that you do but will not admit it, make fun of you for that.
Yeah, they don't like it. You scared, you don't got confidence or whatever the hell. It's like, no, not really.
Yeah, I feel like that is the true high school experience of when you finally get around to being like, I know nothing and no one. Will you be my friend? And then the person's like, are you fucking kidding me?
Ew, no.
Ew, gross.
Yep. So, high school. What a ride. Am I right? Moving on. Basically, the whole song, 15, is written in second person point of view. You did this, you do this, which is wild to me. If you've ever tried to write something in second person, it's the hardest of the persons. First is easy. I did this, I do that. Third is easy. Bob did this.
The phrase hardest of the persons.
The hardest
funny.
of the persons is second. Everyone knows. But Taylor did it. And she was, 18-ish at this point? When she wrote it? 17?
17.
Yeah. She had some skills from early on.
Yeah.
Respect. And we have to ask ourselves, what does that choice mean to write in second person? Is it meant to make the song feel more personal? Like Taylor's talking to you specifically? I think that's the most likely scenario, but there are other possibilities as well.
I think it is to make it more personal, but I also think that this is one of her first instances of really, probably talking to her friends and realizing I'm not the only one who goes through these things and feels this way. Because she's talked about that before on tour, especially, where she'll just write songs and put them out there, and then people have such a good reception of them, and they're like, oh, this is exactly how I feel, this is exactly explaining my situation. And she's like, oh, you feel that way too? Like, I think this was one of the first instances of that, where she probably wrote this song and then played it for like Abigail, and Abigail was like, yes, this is the song.
Indeed. On to the lyrics themselves. Chorus. Because when you're 15 and somebody tells you they love you, you're gonna believe them.
Because you're stupid.
And when you're 15 and your first kiss makes your head spin round, but in your life, you'll do things greater than dating the boy on the football team, but I didn't know it at 15. To me, this is where the issue with the feminist critique of the song is. It's where it lives. Taylor says in this song that 15-year-old girls have very naive fairy tale ideas of love, but that they will one day grow out of it and, realize, oh, there are bigger and better things in the world for me. To me, the song then is descriptive of what many small town girls are like due to how they are raised. It isn't prescriptive. Taylor is not saying that this is how it ought to be. She's saying this is how it is for a lot of people. And I think she's right. It feels, growing up in a small town in Alabama, that makes sense to me, that's how 15-year-old girls felt, or were meant to feel by the world around them, or whatever.
Yes, as a person who allegedly at one point was a 15-year-old girl. Yeah, this is exactly what it was like. But you don't realize that that's what it's like until you're out of it.
Right.
Which is, I think, like the point of the song, and her writing it at like 17 is because by the time you're like 18, you go to college, you go out into the world, whatever, you look back and you go, man, I was stupid. Like, I thought I was going to marry him,
Right. And then, onto the bridge. When all you wanted was to be wanted, wish you could go back and tell yourself what you know now. Back then, I swore I was going to marry him someday, but I realized some bigger dreams of mine. And Abigail gave everything she had to a boy who changed his mind, and we both cried. Here again, we have the issue of what is versus what should be. 15-year-old girls and boys and everyone desperately want to be wanted. That's part of growing up, Eventually you realize you have value intrinsically, and, you don't need acceptance quite in that same way. Teenagers are desperate to find external validation and acceptance from their peers. They want to find who they are and be appreciated for that. But with the benefit of hindsight, you realize you never needed anybody else's love or approval because, kin is enough. You're on your own, kid. You always have been. And that's fine because you've made it this far. Mm-hmm. What Abigail did is ambiguous. The feminist critique claims that it definitely for sure means she had sex with a guy who didn't marry her. She gave away her virtue to a scoundrel. And that'd be gross if that was what it said. But you'll notice it doesn't actually say that. It was inferred by the reader. It says she gave everything. Maybe that does mean sex. Could well mean that. But it could also just mean she put all her faith and her hopes and dreams into a relationship and a love and a future that didn't last, that didn't materialize. And that ending, that breakup, just broke her heart, Sex doesn't have to be in there necessarily, I would say.
Yeah, I think that was her point in phrasing it the way that she did. Which I know is what you're saying, but I am just reiterating that I agree. I think that when you look at it from quote-unquote adult eyes, mature eyes, that's what your brain wants to think immediately, especially if, like us, you grew up in a very, conservative area, because all you're taught is, that's your virtue is all that matters. That's all you have.
Yeah.
And if you just give it away willy-nilly, then you've given everything away. But at 15, everything could be sex, or it could be literally anything else. It could be, I dropped all my friends for you. It could be, I gave up everything I'm interested in for you.
I
It could
gave
be
up
anything.
a college scholarship for you,
Yeah.
so we got to be close to each other.
I let my grades go to shit for you.
Ironically, the feminist critique of this song, which I read, I didn't quote it extensively, but they are assuming that everything Abigail had is her virginity, because they're like, that's what people think. But Taylor doesn't say that, so they've kind of gone back around again, and they're coming at it from a misogynist place, where it's like, yeah, that's everything she had, she gave it away. Abigail, like all people, has more to give than that to someone. And
Yeah.
it's gross that you try to reduce it down to a position that isn't there so that you can argue it. You've built a straw man, and you're just wailing away on it.
But even Taylor wouldn't put it so frankly in a song, but let's say that you are a fly on the wall, you go back in time, and you are there, and you get to see the meaning of what everything for Abigail was. And let's say it is her virginity. That is still relatable.
Yes, it is.
And like Abigail said in her quote about Taylor, asking her, like, are you okay with your name being associated with such a, like, deep song and such an intense song? And she was like, yeah, because if it helps one person feel better about themselves, then good. So I feel like even if that is what it meant, that's exactly what they wanted out of it. Was if you listen to this and think that just because you gave your virginity away to some dumb kid in high school, your life isn't over.
Right. Yeah, for sure. I think that's another interesting thing, is that we jump around in time as well. Taylor does, really, as the narrator, the speaker. She is looking back at something that happened, right? So she's talking about the past from the future, and I think it can be unclear at what points she's herself back in the past versus Taylor, the wise Yoda figure who knows all the
Reflecting,
things.
yeah.
And I think when she describes it as everything she had, I think that's past Taylor and Abigail. That's how they felt at the time, regardless of what everything was. That's how
Right.
it appeared. But they now realize that
It
there
wasn't
was more.
everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree.
So, yeah, I just think it's off base. I don't think it's a feminist nightmare. I don't see that.
Yeah. It's Taylor saying that Abigail gave her all to this relationship, and this boy dropped her like a hot potato, and it affected them both because that's how good of friends they were.
Yeah. And just a quick thing. Just one more before we get off this. If a 17-year-old girl is not super well versed in feminist theory enough to have cogent feminist, theory-based arguments at all times, I don't think that's unrelatable. Like,
Yeah.
who at 17 knows enough about any philosophy or
Anything,
ethos
period.
to
Life.
to
in
be
general.
consistent
Yeah.
with it every minute of the day? Like, nobody does.
No, she's writing from the place that she's in her life then, like you said, looking back on being 15. And if Taylor at 33 were to rewrite this song, it'd be entirely different.
Right. It would. Just calm down, everybody. It's all right. On to our thoughts. Some of mine were about what we talked about, so I'll skip those. Overall, I find the song very impressive. I think it shows Taylor had a gift from early on at observing and turning into a 3-minute pop song, The Human Condition. I certainly didn't have that level of self-awareness when I was that age. I still don't, quite possibly, even now. And I just want to say that it always makes me think of 100 Years by Five for Fighting. Another slow, emotional song that came out in the aughts and made prominent use of the word 15 in the chorus. So,
If you've never listened to any of Five for Fighting's other stuff, you definitely should. It's pretty good.
I have not. Kimberly, what do you think?
Most of my thoughts we went over with lyrics. This song came out before I was 15, but it, no matter how much you tell a teenage girl, like, you're a teenager, you don't know what you're talking about, first of all. You don't know what you're doing. Nothing is permanent at this point in your life. Nothing is the end of the world. You don't listen when people tell you that. When people you look up to, like Taylor, write it in a song, you don't listen. So this song came out before I was 15. So going into being 15, I had this song and I was still stupid.
Indeed.
But it is the ultimate relatable high school girl anthem. That's just what it is.
Good enough. Let's move on to our ratings. For those of you who may be new to the pod, we rate every song from 1 to 10. 1 is extremely bad, 10 is extremely good, and 5 is extremely mid. So, Kimberly, what do you rate 15?
I gave it a 7. It's a classic, but it's not one of my tops. It's not one of my top Taylor Swift songs. It comes in pretty mid for me.
Just to compare to the Taylor Swift subreddit, do you know around where you'd put it on Fearless TV? Was 9
Ooh.
about right for you think, or higher or lower?
It was 9 out of 26.
Yeah.
I think I'd probably go a little lower. Probably put it at like 15. I wouldn't put it at 15 overall of all my Taylor Swift songs, though. That's crazy.
Yeah. For me, I give it a 7 as well. It's a good song. I appreciate it for what it is. But it's usually a skip for me, dog. When I'm listening through Fearless, it's not a banger. It's not trying to be a banger. And it certainly isn't one. And like we said, as far as any one of us knows, I was never a 15-year-old girl. It cannot be proven that I was. If I had been, I think I'd relate to it a bit more, and it may be a little higher for me. But as it is, it's kind of like the Barbie movie for me. It's like, I respect what they're doing, but I personally don't know that it's for me, you know? It's not meant for me. It doesn't have to be. Not everything in the world is about straight white men, nor should it be. But some of it I just can't relate to super much myself.
That was the whole vibe of the Barbie movie, though. It's not always a... Well, I mean, I guess the vibe was like, sometimes it should be about straight white men. Whatever.
It's complicated.
Anyway, this is not a Barbie podcast. We won't worry about it. Yeah. It's a 7 for me because it is a mid-nostalgia, is how I'm going to describe it.
All right. If you would like to tell us how you rate 15, you can do that in the episode description. We will have a poll up so you can tell us how you rate it. It will also be up on our social media.
That's what I was going to say. Hopefully we'll have a poll up on Instagram, Threads, and X. Twitter, yes. Whatever you want to call it.
Zombie Twitter.
The Elon Musk social media site. Again, just a reminder from the top of the episode, we have had to do a little rebranding, so you can find us at CBLU_podcast.
And we hope this is going to stick, you know. Big podcast out here. They feel us coming.
Trying to keep us down.
That's right. They look over their shoulder, and we're a little bit closer each time.
We're hustling.
We got that dog. So much dog. Just dog all the way down.
Dogs all the way down.
And they are shook. But we will not be defeated. We will make as many accounts as is needed.
We will change our handles 27 bajillion times.
That's right. To bring you that sweet, sweet content that you deserve.
Also, shout out to Madeline for making a whole bunch of AI cover promotional art things for our episodes. They're fun.
They are fun. AI is not good at eyes or hands yet. We have noticed that in the screening process. But we think we found some good ones.
Yeah.
For sure.
Some cool ones.
What song are we talking about next week?
We are talking about Mr. Perfectly Fine.
Sticking with Fearless.
Oh, boys. Are we going to talk about Joe Jonas?
Yep. We'll probably talk about it more next week, but he's had some stuff going on in his life lately.
It's just rumor.
Or
nonsense.
is it? We will see.
That episode will also be like 2 weeks away from seeing the Jonas Brothers, and by we I mean me and Madeline.
Yes, I won't be going, but hopefully it'll be a great time for you and the other 30-year-old women who are there.
Me and the other almost 23-week-old pregnant lady that's going to be there. Not Madeline, our other friend that's going.
Indeed. Do you have anything else?
I don't think so.
All right. Well, that is it for this week. Thank you so much for listening. Follow us on the social medias, and we will see you next week.
Well, bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Cowboys Like Us. Follow us on Instagram, Threads, and X at CBLU_podcast. Email us directly at cowboyslikeuspodcast@gmail.com. New episodes every Monday on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. Y'all come back now, you hear?